שיוויתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד, כי מימיני בל אמות. לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי, אף בשרי ישכון לבטח, כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול. לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת, תודיעני אורח חיים, שובע שמחות את פניך, נעימות במינך נצח. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice, my being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life, your presence brings fullness of joy, enduring happiness is your gift. Rabotai, my friends, death has taken our beloved Sylvia. Our friends grieve in their darkened world, and in their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Sylvia's love that united us in life in which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more do we give our thanks to God. Brian? I'm going to read 117 on the next page.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Adonai, who may abide in your... Sorry, other way. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Adonai ro'i lo echzar, binoteshe yarbitzeni, al mai menochot yenachaleni nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'ma'agle tzedek lema'an shemo, gam ki elech begetz al maved lo erara, ki ata imadi. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return us to dust, you decree, return you mortals, for in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep, we are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew. At dusk, it withers and dries up. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength 80 years. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, to number our days. L'kol zman ve'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim, et leledet ve'et lamut. For everything there is a season. There is a time for every experience under heaven. There is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. There is a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh. There's a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. There is a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard. There is a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes wrote, "The eye never has its fill of seeing. Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their tasks, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearned for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another simcha, yet another precious moment together. God be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this hour, be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." In his sorrow, Job cried out, "Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach." God has given, God has taken away, and still in our pain, we praise God's name. As an ancient people, we are acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, and yet the centuries have taught us that a Shem Tov, a good name, endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, "Adonai natan," you have given us a loved one in Sylvia who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love. And we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach, blessed be God's name now and forever. When I was speaking with the family yesterday, I invited them to speak and to share reflections and memories. And at this time, I'd like to invite Pamela to please come forward.
Hi, I'm Pamela. I'm Sylvia's granddaughter. I just wrote down some thoughts, so I hope they're eloquent enough. My daughter wasn't giving me much time to think and reflect, but okay. When I think about my grandmother Sylvia, my nanny, the first image that comes to my mind is two hands covering eyes over flickering Shabbat candles resting on tinfoil. I watched her light them while whispering quietly to herself every Friday night throughout my entire childhood, all the way until I left for college. It's a tradition that I've actually come to miss now that I'm grown and I live across the country in Los Angeles. Lighting Shabbat candles marks the peaceful transition from the busy week into a period of rest. It's an ushering in of tranquility and joy into the household and a chance to reflect. I didn't really appreciate this custom at the time. In fact, it was almost a background performance while the rest of us sat at the table ready to eat some roasted chicken, matzo ball soup, boiled carrots, sliced cantaloupe, the entire meal that Nanny prepared. She loved to cook for her family. Nanny was a Holocaust survivor, something that we mention often. It's a fact that she herself brought up when my brother and I didn't finish our food or took 2 sips of milk and walked away from the table. When we were in concentration camps, we had nothing but to eat, she would say. Yeah, we'd dismiss. I want to be fair. Being a Holocaust survivor was not her identity. It was not who she was. It's something she experienced. And yet, it's a profoundly important part of her story that cannot be ignored. Nanny was unequivocally kind, sometimes even to a fault. She hated conflict. She wanted everyone to get along. She was agreeable and friendly, sweet, caring, giving, selfless, but she wasn't weak. This is perhaps the best way to describe her, in the irony of the contrast between the Holocaust and her goodness. Sorry. She told me that she still gets nightmares, literally till recently, of the horrors of those years, of the unimaginable brutality and the pure evil that she witnessed in Auschwitz and the working camps. And yet she wasn't outwardly angry, and she didn't turn on the world or her Jewish traditions. She built an entire life focused on her family. Growing up, she dropped everything to take care of my brother and me, especially when we were sick and had to stay home from school. She was always excited to hear about our interests, our activities, our friends. She was a steadfast champion. When I was in my 20s and living in an apartment alone in LA, Nanny also found herself living in an apartment alone in New Jersey. And we used to joke about the parallels of being independent at these different stages of life. She actually enjoyed not having to cook for anyone but herself. Still, throughout all these years, her commitment to her family and her friends never wavered, even if her commitment to some Jewish traditions waned toward the end, when she was simply exhausted and maybe too tired to light Shabbat candles every Friday night. She was almost 97. Instead, she lit up in the presence of her great-grandchildren, Leo, Reese, Noah, Jaden, and asked constantly about her step-grandkids, my husband, his family, my childhood friends. She thought about everyone and enjoyed hearing stories about our lives. In Hebrew, Lador Vador is generation to generation. Sylvia was one of the last survivors of her generation, and we now have a new generation to honor her memory and pass along the great virtues and the legacy of her life. Nanny was the source of tranquility and peace for our family, a respite from the hustle and craziness of our daily lives. She was a light that comforted us. Maybe my daughter, Noah, and I will start lighting some candles every Friday night and pick up where she left off. I love you, Nanny.
And Michelle?
I'm Michelle. I'm Nanny's granddaughter. Nanny had to figure out who she was at a very young age. She had to have an identity, and one that she trusted in herself and everybody else at just 13 years old. And for her, her identity was always love and kindness. She gave it to everybody in the camps. She would tell me stories how she would give up her bread to Ethel, and on other days Ethel would give it up to her because they needed balance and they needed each other. She was the most present human I ever had in my life. I would go visit in Co-op City because I didn't live with them. And so I would fly in, and it would just be me and Nanny and Ethel. And I'd go between the apartments in the building, just riding the elevator all day. And I would never tell her where I was going, but she always knew I was either at Ethel's or at her house waiting for her to come down. We would sit on the bus together and ride into Manhattan, and she would stroke my arms or my legs. And I asked my mom yesterday, I said, "Do you remember the song she used to sing?" And my mom said, "Yes." And I said, "Sing it." And so just a little verse, she would do the, "How much is that doggy in the window? Ruff, ruff." And I just remember sitting in that moment with her and feeling so safe and just loved and cared for. And that was Nanny. She wanted everybody to feel the safety she never got to have. She wanted everybody to feel the love that she carried regardless of what she had been through. Family was her everything. That was what kept Nanny to be Nanny. She taught the importance to her children, Sandy and my mom, that family is something you fight for and you love them. And even if times are hard, you fight through the hardness because you are a unit. She wanted everybody to understand that past is past and that you don't have to let the bad always mix with the good, and you can just be in the moment. She loved everybody, even when she had no idea what was going on, because sometimes she didn't get it. But even in those moments, she would smile and offer a hug, and she would just say, "I love you." I remember always being jealous of Pamela and Brian because I didn't get to be with them the same way. But she never made me feel less. And when we would sit and we would play cards together, or when I got older, Nanny and I would cook. Yeah, right. And we would get into arguments because I would say, "Just tell me how much I need of this for your meatballs." "I don't know, Michelle." And I'm like, oh God, this is, but we would do it together. And it was the time we would spend in the kitchen. Or if Sandy was coming to visit and I was there and Beth was coming, I would cook so she didn't have to anymore. But she would sit with me. Relationships are not every moment, it's all the small moments combined that make us family. And that's what Nanny wanted. She wanted a family. She would do anything for anybody, and she would do it quietly and respectfully. I always knew she loved me, even if I wasn't there with her. I never had to question it. I miss most will be hearing her laugh. I will miss most hearing her say the most off-the-wall comments. She called my mom a floozy not long ago. And I didn't even know Nanny could know that word. It's Bob's fault. Yeah. But she found a way to put herself into every moment just as she was. When my friends and family ask me who she was to me, I tell her she's everything I wish I could be. She's brave and strong and kind and loving and doesn't judge. She's generous. She's always going to be my person and the one that I loved, even when we weren't always together. And so that's what today is. We might not be together physically again, but she's here, we're here, and we can always love for her and take care of everybody the way she would want.
As a rabbi, I get asked a lot of questions. And one of the questions I get asked is, I felt uncomfortable laughing at a funeral. Is that okay, Rabbi, to laugh at a funeral? And I would respond, not only is it okay, but with somebody like Sylvia, you better laugh. You better laugh. You know, when Pamela was talking about the Shabbat candles, what a beautiful memory. Now, there's a wonderful tradition that I want to share with you about the Shabbat candles. We light 2 Shabbat candles on Friday night. And I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask why. I'm just going to tell you. The rabbis say that there are 2 different commands in the Torah for Shabbat. One is shamor, and the other is zachor. Shamor means to remember. Remember the Shabbat day. Other way around. Zachor is remember the Shabbat day. Shamor means keep the Shabbat day. And so that's why we light 2 candles. One for shamor, to keep, one for zachor, to remember. And as your memory of those Shabbat candles is now going to change a little bit. It's going to morph. Because not only are you keeping and remembering Shabbat among the family, but you're also keeping and remembering Sylvia. You are keeping her somewhere deep inside you, where she will continue to guide you. And you will remember her. And you will remember her when you tell the stories. And I saw, to Leo and Reese and Noah and Jaden. They're too young to know the stories. But they will learn those stories. When I was hearing some of the stories of Sylvia's life, I thought to the verse in the Torah where Moses is speaking to the Jewish people, quoting God, and he said, behold, I place before you the blessing and the curse. She saw a lot of curse. She saw a lot of blessing. When she got out of Auschwitz and Buchenwald, she embraced the blessings. And then the Torah has the best verse ever. Uvacharta b'chayim. You shall choose life, not death. Behold, I place before you life and death. Choose life so that you and your children will live. That was the story of her life. It's like this verse was written for Sylvia. And she was haunted by the camps. Who wouldn't be? She had to be. She had the nightmares. But that didn't define who she was. It didn't define the direction of her life. The direction of her life was as an Eshet Chayil, a woman of strength. And if you want to know what inner strength is after living through the horrors of war and losing your entire family, look at Sylvia. It was something that abided with her, but it didn't guide her. I know that there will be moments of sadness, moments of missing her, but there will also be moments of laughter. And she wanted you all to laugh. She lived a remarkable life. 96 years old is not a short life. 96 years old, in Sylvia's case, is a life so well lived that she goes to her eternal rest, and she said, I have chosen life so that me and my family shall live. And because of the way I connected with them and all of you over the course of 96 years, you too will live. Shamor v'zachor. Keep and remember her memory. And when you light those Shabbat candles, every one of you, her memory will always be with you. Please, into your care we entrust the spirit of Sylvia, For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us all that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. Please rise for the El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Otohorim Kazohar, Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Sylvia Yakirenu, Shahalacha Le'olama, Ba'al Harachamim Yastireha Beseter Kenafav L'olamim, Vayitzruor Bitzor HaChaim Et Nishmataha, Adonai, Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mihishkavaha, V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to a most remarkable mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, Sylvia, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bonds of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Friends, immediately following the service, we are going to the grave. So please follow Gina. And also just an announcement about a gathering of comfort. The first gathering will be tonight at whose house? At Beth's house. Okay, and then tomorrow night, I think, is there a time?
4 to 7.
From 4 to 7?
No, for me, it's right after.
For you, it's right afterwards. Please join the procession as we accompany Sylvia to the grave.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we walk out the double doors, if you look straight ahead, you're going to see a green tent as we were headed. You do have the option to walk there, take your vehicles, or you have a golf cart to the street. Thank you.
Thank you.